Call our Tuesday, July 5th, Commissioner meeting to order. We'll start with the pledge of allegiance.
The United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first item on our agenda today is our county attorney, Matt Shipman.
Other than the items that are on the agenda for later, I don't have anything else to report unless you guys have questions.
I believe we do. So we'll move right on to Katy Fry with the Highway Department.
So I have kind of a recap of our bids that we received for our community crossings. After reviewing all of the bids, we do have the lowest bid came in from Niblock, which was at $1,090,348. So that would put our local match at $283,790.50. So it is $14,000, almost $15,000 higher than our initial estimate. That was what we put out to community crossings in our application when we received the funding for that. So it's actually a little bit better than I thought it was going to be, which is nice. So we are going to have a little bit more to pay for the local match at 100%, but it's not really as expensive as it could be, which is good considering the price on a lot of different things right now. So just to recap, the original project estimate was $1,075,000, and our local match was to be $268,000. So the awarded amount that we received for the community crossings was $806,557. So that's kind of what we're looking at for that. As far as the bids went, like I said, the Niblock came in at the lowest. There was a couple of things that were not included in their bid package. But the way that the bid package was worded, it made it kind of, there were some things that were in there that were mandatory, and the other things that just said upon the acceptance of the bid or upon other things that we could need. A couple of items. It's their drug policy for their company, their equal employment opportunity, civil rights, affirmative action, their company policies on that. So if we do accept that, that just needs to be conditional that we also have that information on file on the acceptance of the bid. And I did speak with our engineering consultant, and he did recommend that we also ask for a performance bond of 125% of our bid amount, which would be $1,262,935. So that would be conditional. Other than that, Brooks was a second. They were about $30,000 more than Niblock. So they did put everything into their bid. So I guess if we wanted to weigh that into consideration as far as acceptance goes, but like I said, the Niblock one was about $30,000 less than Brooks's. Niblock has not done any work for us since 2018. Brooks submits a bid every year and has done work pretty consistently for us. So just some things to take into consideration, I suppose. But as far as what we have received, I think that they are really they are the lowest responsive there.
So I'm sorry, remind me. They did not include.
So the wording in the actual bid just said that they should have those things, but it didn't say that it was required in the bid. So it was their company policy for their civil rights, affirmative action, and equal employment opportunity, and then just their company's drug testing policy. So those are all things that would be written on the Form 96 and conditional. But it's a simple addition as long as they provide that, and I think that you could probably put a certain date in there too that they need to provide it by. Otherwise, the bid is null, and then we could move forward with Brooks. But as it stands right now, it's not something that's required from me.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation, just upon what we have outlined in the bid specifications, that Niblock does meet what was required, and they do have the lowest bid. I would recommend that we do move forward with Niblock.
Matt, do you have any thoughts on going back to Niblock and asking for those affirmative action, for the affirmative action language? And
Well, it sounds like upon acceptance, they will hand all of that over. Is that correct?
It's not, it doesn't say in there that they will provide it upon acceptance. It's in our bid specifications. It says that they will provide it. So we would just have to specify upon the acceptance of their bid that it's conditional to them submitting those documents.
That's where.
They're pretty standard, so I don't think that there would be anything in their policies that would cause for us to go out of that.
yes.
Matt, on the performance bond, the 125%, can we ask that after it's been let out? Please let out, or,
We had a bid bond that I think was 10%, but the performance bond is for the actual work itself.
So it was in the bid specs.
so it was not,
It was not.
but Brooks did have it, but USI is one that was recommending that we have it, but it wasn't in the bid specs.
I mean, I think you'd have to rebid it and change the specs, or you could ask them to do it and maybe they would be willing to. But they might do that with a cost, obviously.
I'm sure there's a cost for that.
So there is, Craig with USI said that he would just ask that the award be conditional to submitting that bond. I don't know if.
It's not part of what you asked for.
And looking back upon the other bid documents that we've submitted for this type of a project, we never had before. But that was just a recommendation, and I think it's just kind of insurance to make sure the work is done to our preference. Or that it's done in an intended fashion, but I guess that's few and far between because we haven't done it before.
But we do have a bid that would include the 125% performance bond, and also includes the affirmative action for the selecting.
But we don't know that Niblock wouldn't do that.
Yeah, and that's not really, that doesn't meet the responsive test of the responsible and responsive because it wasn't part of what we asked them. So Niblock would have a legitimate complaint probably if they weren't selected based on those factors because they weren't part of it. My suggestion would be ask them to do it and then just in the future make sure we always include that, and we haven't been doing it previously, so it's obviously, and it's not like we are familiar with Niblock.
And I have spoke with Greg also about taking a look at our bid specifications and maybe putting a few more stipulations or just to make it a little bit more teeth for us in future bid processes. But this one is kind of just the standard that we've used for the past several years.
Okay, commissioners.
I'd make a motion that we approve the Niblock bid of 1,900,000 348.
1,090,348.
$1,090,348.
Subject to them turning in the,
Yes, subject to them turning in their company policy on civil rights, affirmative action, equal employment opportunity, and drug testing policy. And then if we'd like to include the 125%
I don't think we can,
performance
we
bonds.
can ask them, but
you can ask, I think. They can just say no.
I'll amend my motion for that.
I'll second that.
Okay, I have a motion and a second.
Katie, if they,
Would we want to rephrase that motion just for clarification, just so we understand that? It's my understanding the motion is to accept Niblock's bid
At $1,090,348.
contingent on them.
ELC,
Yep. Affirmative action, drug testing,
policy on civil rights, affirmative action, equal opportunity, employment, and drug testing policy.
Great, thank you. So any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand.
And then I do have an acceptance form here with just the 496. And have some signatures on this, and that it's accepted this day, subject to the following conditions, and those can all be written. But, I think this one right here only needs to be signed up.
Is there a signature line on the first page? Or
It's, down at the bottom of that first page, there should be a signature for it to be
Under where it says action taken.
accepted.
Katie, while you're still up here, do you want to speak at all to the interlocal agreement for road improvements? This is the interlocal with the city.
Yes.
200 south.
Yes, 200 South, the interlocal agreement that we have with city is the one with Payroll included also, because that was modified slightly. So is that what we did?
South Whitley, or Payroll is approving it, and then I'll come back to you.
Okay.
We just had to change the year that the grant came in that one. So we had previously approved the Larwell, but it was a 2021 grant. So that'll come back around.
But for the interlocal agreement, I had spoke with Mayor Daniel, and the city now owns a portion of 200 South. So we are splitting the cost of the paving for the local agreement that we have, where they're going to pay the 25% of their portion of the road for that paving. So really the only thing that it includes is just more of an actual, I guess we just got kind of a handshake agreement of it now, but now that the bid has actually gone out and been accepted, but this is just a formal agreement that the city is agreeing to pay for this.
Matt, you've had a chance already to review.
I actually drafted that, and the city has also already approved it, so we don't have to go through. And I believe it's on the agenda for their Board of Works meeting this week, maybe? It's Board of Works. I can't remember. Next week. Whenever the Board of Works is, it's already on there.
So we have an interlocal to approve today, and it's later on the agenda, but I thought while Katie was up here, if you guys have any questions about the project or any of that, otherwise we could go ahead and just approve this now. So I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the interlocal agreements with the city of Columbia City.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Anything further? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And this requires only one signature. Thanks, Katie.
Yeah, and if I could just ask a quick question before something, I know it wasn't on the agenda. We were having some issues with one of our mower tractors that it is no longer safe to operate, so we are just operating with one. I had recently mentioned about how we have a portion of our budget that's allocated to the Timmins that we've already committed to, and wanted to know if I would potentially have the support from the commissioners to, if we were able to make a purchase towards a new mower tractor to be able to utilize better to safer equipment for this year. I don't know if we're going to get it obtained. I've been trying to get quotes and timelines from a couple of different our providers locally. If we would have your blessing, I suppose, to contribute some of those funds that are already allocated to that purchase, and then go to the council for potential additional appropriation, then to make up for the remaining funding that would be because of the purchase. So we have three right now. We have one more tractor that we're running, and we're making it work. is really what it comes down to. The other one, it's not safe to operate at all. They can't really figure out what's wrong with it. It may just be the age of the equipment, but the boom kind of moves. It floats on its own while it's operating. So that obviously is a hazard there.
There was a pump ordered from Iowa or something. Did that pump arrive?
I don't know anything about for the tractors. I know that there was something for our Gradall that was on order that was a ways out that we just got fixed. But as far as the tractor goes, there was something wrong with both of them. But they got one of the issues fixed with me, and then the pump I haven't spoken to Steve out this week. But the other tractor, as of right now, is not safe to operate.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, the chair recognizes Councilman Ted Comfort.
At our budget meeting, Katy brought this situation to our attention, and the council would be favorable of making an additional appropriation or transfer as necessary, in large part due to the likelihood that both of the tandems will not be delivered in this budget year. So the funds are likely available, and we would be favorable.
Okay, thank you.
I would support it. That's terrible for your department. I feel like you guys are
Everything's kind of just going downhill at the same time, but we're making do with it, and we're able to still operate one of them. But to be completely transparent, sometimes the mower doesn't work, and you have to open the window and reach through and kind of jiggle the wiring. One of the other ones you had to either stop the tractor or drive with your knees because you had to operate the joystick with one hand and finagle the wiring with the other. So it's just a whole deal where I said it's not safe to operate it at this time. So unless they can figure out what's wrong with it, and we can get it fixed. But again, it is a 23-year-old piece of equipment with almost 9,000 hours on it. So John Deere and Diamond have both told us that they've never seen a county highway operated this equipment that long. So kudos to the department for stretching it, but at this time it just seems like we need to see what opportunities that we can jump on for replacement.
And there's a third mower tractor, right? The mower that we have that equipped with is just a pull behind, not a boom that you can get to roadside ditches. Have you had any luck with speccing out a boom mower for that?
We did, and they gave us an option for it. The mower was significantly more expensive than I hoped it would be because it's about, even though it's a smaller model, it's about the same price as the ones for the larger John Deere models. And the manufacturer has also recommended that it's not their preference to put that style of a motor on that size of a Kubota tractor because the frame actually is the same frame that the motor mount is connected to. So the constant movement of the boom mower can cause the motor mounts to either shear or to come loose, or it can cause some of the seals and things to come loose, which can cause more maintenance issues with the tractor. So it's not a preference to have a side mount boom mower, but we could still make it work if we need to.
The stuff like that's probably not a good idea.
It's probably not the best idea long term.
Okay.
I would ask that we take a look at the equipment that's made for this rather than us trying to use some equipment that we're making do right now. But I've seen some of this state highway equipment that they have that is actually made for the side roads and doing what we're doing, making do anyway. So I think there's some equipment out there that we might, and I'm sure it's expensive, but it's made for that type of work. I think we could look into that.
Okay, thank you, Katie.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda, we have Nathan Bilger from Planning and Building with a rezoning.
In your email though. Whichever you'd like to start with.
Let's start with what I know we have in front of us. And I do recall the email, but after a long weekend, I forgot.
What was that? I'm sorry. I'm gonna look at it too. What was that set?
I think it was with your packet.
My
Yes,
email
the
won't
Hampton
pull up.
Homestead. While you guys look up that on the rezoning, this is a rezoning for a one-lot flat, one-lot residential subdivision down off of 200 South between the Eel River and Raver Road. It triggers, this would be the third lot split from the existing overall parent tract. 2 lots were split 2 years ago off of Raver Road. This would be third. Triggers the need for rezoning because it is the first platted lot from that parent tract. This is only the third time that we've had such a situation come before you. The first was down along 800 East, tucked in amongst a bunch of different subdivisions. The second was near 205 in Smith Township, which did not get approved. And then this is the first one in Columbia Township that we've seen. And the only one, no, the one along 800 was one lot as well. So it's the second one that's only one lot. This does come to you with a favorable recommendation. There's probably unanimous favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission. The biggest factor here is, while it is agricultural on both sides, you have fields on both sides of the property, north and south side of the road, it is very close to the city's jurisdictional area. The river defines the jurisdictional area here. And so it's only, as I recall, about 600 feet from, maybe even less than that, from what would be the city's territory. So I believe that was one big factor in what the Planning Commission recommendation was. So, thank you. So this is proposed rezoning from AG to RR in order to allow for that one lot.
Did any of the surrounding landowners have any issues with it? Did we have any show up to?
As I recall, there was one person who spoke, one of the immediately adjacent neighbors, actually the only immediately adjacent neighbor to the southwest. And he spoke, if you know him, he doesn't speak strongly. So take this with a grain of salt, but he didn't speak strongly for the project and nor against it. I would say he probably spoke more against it, just out of concern about residential growth in agriculture. But that's the only person who spoke. Back up.
The ordinance number on this would be 2020-09.
Clean copy here if you guys need it.
Is it different from this one?
Legal size. Nope, it's the same size.
That's fine.
I'll make a motion to approve ordinance number 2022-09.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. That passes unanimously. So I'm sorry, so the other is that Hampton Homestead.
Hampton Homestead,
Okay,
yeah.
so we do also have that in our packet.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Just to make it on the printed agenda then. So if you'd like, I'll go ahead and present that.
Yep.
Okay. This is a plat. This is a while coming to you because it was originally approved by the Planning Commission back in October, I believe. If you recall, October was a very busy month for the Planning Commission. Plats that came through. This one, they just wanted to button everything up before they actually brought it to you. So it's one lot located off of Kaiser Road. Near Kaiser Road, it's actually off of 200 West, just south of Kaiser Road. Nothing particularly remarkable about it. The biggest question was health department still need their soil tests done as of last fall. They have been done now, so the health department will sign off on it. So again, comes to you with the Planning Commission approval, of course.
Make a motion to approve the request as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising their hand. And that also passes unanimously.
Thank you. And while you're signing that, I'll mention to you, and you'll know what happened upstairs this morning with the rain and the temporary location where we had some file boxes. I will be sending to you, I have a quote for a scanning project that I was hoping to be able to put into budget for next year, but after kind of discussing informally with you guys, it seems like maybe it would be best to bump this all up. So I will be sending you a quote that we have for consideration, and then if need be onward to council. Trying to make this still procedurally expedient as much as I can to get that done, to get some of those boxes out of this building and no longer be subject to issues. That's why I don't.
So just what he's speaking of, with the hard rain that we got last night, the government building is leaking in some areas, and a bunch of the documents from planning and building, a lot of permits did get rained on, unfortunately. So that's what he's referring.
Preliminarily, it doesn't look like any files were actually damaged. The boxes they were in, had it happened, say, last Friday night, they would have been sitting and soaking and probably storage. So good thing happened this morning. But again, if we have the opportunity to get them off-site, that's the situation. So they are our oldest, some of our oldest files that we keep faithfully for posterity. Not totally. We get questions, and that's why we keep them. But if we did lose them, we regularly lose them, and our new files are still active.
So in the estimates that you're receiving, do they include a server for storage?
Yes, we had them spec out the actual scanning project and then the storage and a digital online archive. So there's three components to the work.
So it won't be utilizing space on the main server,
Correct. It
which
would
is
be,
near full now. So I just fear that if we did that, we would fill it out quickly.
it would, yes. Now, with the quote that we have, it's transportable. So if we go with them online, initially, we could still transport it to something local later and remove the annual fee that they charge. And same thing with actual physical space. If we're getting more physical space, we can take the boxes back, the hard copies back.
And it would be like cloud-based, and you'll just access their server from online. And there was not an option for like an external hard drive or something. You can just have them store it on.
That to have them give us just a hard drive would be part of the original, just the scanning quote. That's
Okay.
They scan it to digital and then just give us the document, and then we would have to put it, be successful, we would put it locally in, as you said. We're running out of service.
Right. Okay.
But I will get that to you for your consideration at the next meeting.
Okay.
Again, trying to keep this rolling since the needs
Yep.
made itself apparent.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is our vehicle use policy. Jennifer Shinabery. So this has been a long time coming. We've all had this. We've reviewed it. We've been a part of the process and developing. So if you just want to give a summary of the policy, that'd be great.
Sure. Well, in general, it's based largely upon some recommendations and guidance from our liability insurance carrier travelers. So they gave us a model and based it off of that. But in general, it's also updated to include some of the distracted driving laws that are in place regarding that. It also includes more details as far as it has a motor vehicle record evaluation grid, where it employees will be, their motor vehicle records will be checked, those that are drivers for the county. And then based off of that, it will be put into the evaluation grid to evaluate. And it has been reviewed by Attorney Shipman as well as Attorney Gary Johnson.
And for the process, we'll approve, the council will also approve, right? We're not sending them a favorable pass. We're actually approving at this level and then
That's
they'll
my
approve.
understanding.
Yeah.
Is maintenance separate? How would we deal with maintenance? Since they have vehicles.
Right, as far as the drug testing, is that what you're referring to specifically?
Yeah.
So that was one thing that the attorney, Gary Johnson, suggested a recommendation we put in there. With drug testing, my understanding is that because we're a public entity, we can only randomly drug test certain employees. And those employees are listed there. They're basically safety sensitive positions. So maintenance is not included in that, but their driving record will be checked. They just won't be drug tested.
I will make a motion to approve the policy on driving employees.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And opposed, the same. That's unanimous. Will that be on council's agenda for tomorrow?
Yes, I believe so.
You're up next.
Okay, so every year we use Pearson Consulting to do our capital asset report. They just need to have an agreement signed. I guess it's something they do every year. I don't know if Matt, you want to speak on that at all, but
It's the same agreement. Done for as long as I've been around.
so I just need approval to allow them to complete our capital asset for 2022.
I make a motion that we approve the county capital asset agreement with Peterson Consulting as presented.
I'll second, just with a quick question. Did the cost go up at all?
I'll have to go back through and look. I don't know what we paid last year. I guess it'd be this year, but I have to kick myself off my program. Come upstairs. Looks like it was $3,523.60. That's what we paid last time.
Yeah, because these would not exceed 3,600. So. Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising their hand. And that also passes unanimously.
I'll just take one signature.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the electronic attendance resolution. Matt, do you want to speak to this?
I can, yes. So as everybody probably remembers for, kind of in the height of COVID, they created some special rules for electronic attendance of meetings. Or what the governor really did through executive order. Those executive orders have now expired, but to make it so that we can still use the ability for commissioners or council members to appear remotely, we have to adopt a resolution at this point. And there's a statute on it that ultimately the resolution just mirrors the language in the statute. And so assuming we adopt that, then we can use that procedure going forward to the event somebody's not local and would still like to participate. The only slight wrinkle we'll have to figure out is the video part of it. I asked Nathan about it. He's thought he could figure it out. Maybe. We'll see if we can figure it out. So that's it in a nutshell. I can give you more detail about, the specific questions if you have them.
This was something that was brought up at conference, at staff through a meeting. So I asked Matt to take a closer look because they announced at conference that we couldn't just phone in any longer. So that's the purpose. The resolution number on this would be 2022-08.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution 2022-08.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. And that passes unanimously.
I think that is on council's agenda for tomorrow as well. So, to the extent we would like also to do it.
Okay, next up, we have the CMC contract with Weigand Construction. We've had a little bit of conversation about this. We've had it for a little while, but it would be my recommendation that we reconvene our subcommittee for CMC selection to review and make sure that we all understand the agreement. So it would be my recommendation that we table and quickly have that subcommittee reconvene.
So I think the only thing that we were concerned about with tabling this, do you think that will push the timeline back, or would you even know? I think that's the only thing we're concerned.
Yeah, so I mean,
My suspicion is it might, but I don't have any idea.
fortunately, we meet every 2 weeks. So if it were to push anything back, it would be for just not very much time at all.
So I would be in favor of tabling it, if we can get a meeting with the committee before our next commissioner meeting,
Sure.
so we can get this done.
Yeah. I'm totally fine with that. I just personally, I'm not an attorney, right? So I read this stuff and I get a little lost in it. And so I just want to make sure that I have an understanding exactly what it is that I'm voting for before I vote for it. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to table. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising their hand. Next item on the agenda will be payroll and accounts payable claims approval.
I went up and checked payable, accounts payable, and everything. There were no issues or concerns. So I will make a motion to approve payroll.
I'll second.
Okay, we'll motion to approve payroll and second. We'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Passes.
We'll make a motion, we approve accounts payable.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for accounts payable. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Accounts payable passes unanimously. Okay, next item on the agenda is our previous meeting minutes approval. This would be from our June 20th meeting.
I only saw one thing that needs corrected, and it's just a typo on coroner vehicle request. Right after that, it says coroner instead of coroner. That's the only thing that I saw that needed to be corrected. I'll make a motion, we approve the minutes with the correction.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll call for the vote. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Can we do any correction on this? If it's just a typo?
That's fine. The very first line there, maybe.
Want me to initial it?
Sure. Thank you.
Is there anything that you'd like to add, Matt?
I've got some dates and stuff that I'm available next week. I'll be thinking so that we can create that.
Tiffany? Kamala? Anything from the audience? Anyone would like to add today? Commissioner Fromm? No basic? And I have nothing to add. I'll adjourn the meeting.
Is he still supposed to be on this?
No, because I think he has to have Matt